Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick D'Alessandro, Town Supervisor. Thank you for joining us on the October 25th, 2018 Town Board meeting. Would everyone please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All of our hometown hero banners are out on the road, except for one. So if everyone was thinking where they are, they're all out. Just a couple of comments before we begin. Busy meeting, a busy month this month as usual. Lots of meetings. I started out the month with a meeting with the Mayors and Supervisors Association. They are planning to have the Dutchess County Commissioner of Public Works, Bob Balkine, come, and several other highway superintendents possibly. I talked to my highway superintendent about it. Many municipalities have questions about Dutchess County plowing. Many towns and municipalities, cities are asked by Dutchess County to see if they want to do the plowing of county roads. Well, there's some discrepancies there. There is a discrepancy on the amount of money that they charge per road mile, and also there's insurance factors. East Fishkill, I don't think, will be participating in this program because we don't feel that there is enough that they give the towns and cities to do that, but I'm willing to listen to the commissioner and see what he has to say, and maybe we can negotiate a better price. But right now, I don't think that the town is going to contribute towards that program. I had a meeting with our new IT team, Matt Longerfo and Sullivan Data. They completed a full analysis of our systems and hardware. We are not in very good IT shape in the town. We have many challenges at Town Hall, at the Police Department, at the Highway Department, basically the whole town. They've given me their recommendations, which I have shared with the town board, and what it will take to fix everything. Basically, what it will take to fix everything is money, which we don't have that much of, but I've shared a few possible plans with the board and several others to see if we can achieve it, so I will keep everybody apprised to that. On October 2nd, I was invited by the Wappinger Central School District Superintendent, Jose Carrion. They invited a bunch of supervisors from East Fishkill, Wappingers, villages of Fishkill and Wappingers, town of Poughkeepsie and LaGrange. The intent was to promote a more collaboration between all the towns and the school district. There seems to be a lack of communication, so they are already planning another meeting in December. The meeting was very informative, so I'll be attending that also. I'll let you know how that goes. I met with several businesses and property owners down the Route 52 corridor. They're interested in expanding the town water and sewer, or both. So we discussed costs. Basically, that's the prohibitive factor here, is how much it costs to get water and sewer to these businesses, these properties. Like any other projects for municipalities, we have to pay prevailing wage by New York state law. So that generally increased the cost to all the projects. So if they could get together, some of these property owners together, and do it privately, that they could save some money in installing the piping that they need to expand this. So I'm going to be meeting with them again, seeing if the town could facilitate any help whatsoever, and it looks like there's possibly could be a plan to go forward with that. On October 9th, I attended a grand opening of iPark Food Hub, they call it now, one section of iPark. They showcased several businesses there, such as Cozzini Cutlery, More Good Syrups and Beverages, and Sloop Brewery. They gave us a tour of all three factories, which was very interesting. And then at the end, we all settled at the brewery, which they gave us all samples. It was very good, Peter, if you were wondering. And it was something to see. It was very interesting. Businesses, they're expanding there. They're expanding in our community. I'm very proud that they are. They're providing jobs. They're providing expanded economic base is what we always talk about. So there's more to come, too, from what I gather, and it is very exciting. So I'm happy that things are going well down there. I'm sure you noticed in the building, we're doing some renovations. We're slowly getting some things done, and basically a portion of that slowly is I'm utilizing a lot of our highway employees, and thank you to our highway superintendent for helping us there. It saves us a lot of money, but you know, the highway has a lot of other things to do also, so we get them when we can.
Rainy days are good.
Rainy days, it's been rainy, a lot of rainy days, so they have been doing things. And it's tough to fix an older building like this because once you open up the walls and see what's going on, you see there's other problems. We renovated all 4 bathrooms here, and unfortunately there was a lot of leaks, a lot of broken pipes in the walls that we had to break through the block to get to fix. So it's a little frustrating, and but you know, it's been 60+ years since anything's been done. Unless something was broken, really nothing has ever been fixed here. So copper pipe doesn't last a lifetime like people think, and so you have to replace these things, and it adds to the cost, but we do what we can. So thank you to all the residents, thank you to all the employees who are coping with this and coming into Town Hall and working here. I appreciate your patience. On October 16th, we had another Business and Economic Development Community meeting here at the Community Center. I have to tell you, we're really blessed here in East Fishkill. We have a lot of dedicated individuals, volunteers that come for our zoning boards, planning board, conservation advisory board, the architectural review board, the fire advisory board, the rec board, our veterans committee, and now the business and economic development committee. They all do an outstanding job. They have a lot going on, and they still make time to volunteer. They care about our community. They care about what's going on. They care about the future of our community. So, you know, I just had to say that we are lucky to have such dedicated people. We had a great meeting. We had a lot of good ideas. Our town planner, Michelle Robbins, was there. Thank you again for attending. We had a discussion about our proposed zoning amendments, which we have a public hearing tonight. And also about how we could help improve ways in our planning and building departments. We discussed that also. We're always trying to improve in any way, shape, or form we can. Nothing's perfect, but we try to do the best we can. Also, we are talking about hiring a part-time economic advisor, which I've discussed before. I have collected a lot of donations from many companies who are willing to help fund that position. So we discussed possibly doing a shared services with this economic advisor with another municipality. We have very good track record with shared services. It does save the community a tremendous amount of money, and also it will give us a chance to maybe get somebody with greater credibility, with a better background into this position, because it's hard to find good talent. So you have to pay to get good talent. So if we could share the costs, we may be able to do that. In Westchester and Long Island, they are hiring economic development directors. They're trying to lure businesses to their town. So we don't have budgets as large as them, but if we could be smart enough to share, then maybe we can get somebody just as good. So I'll let everybody know how that goes. Speaking about volunteers, we had another Veterans Council meeting this week. We discussed how the county veteran parade went. I heard it was very good. I wasn't able to attend. Councilman Franco did attend. And also we talked about other veteran activities that we'll have planned for next year and Veterans Day this year on November 12th. Also the possibility of having some sort of Veterans Hall where all these organizations could come and meet, and that would be really good if we can find something like that. So we're always trying to look for different ways to help the veterans. We had a meeting here about Hillside Lake with Stephen Gruber and David Whitney and Scott Bryant and Rick Witt from our staff came. Basically, we discussed scheduling and budgets. The Hillside Lake grant will commence approximately in mid-June in 2019, once the rainy season ends. I hope it's not anything like this year, so then it'll be delayed, but without that, we're hoping mid-June. David Whitney from Echo Solutions said he anticipates the project to be completed in 6 to 8 weeks, weather depending, and the earthwork activities like the hauling and whatnot will be performed by our highway department, using our assets like our trucks and excavators and operators and drivers. So the hope is we could draw down the cost, the construction cost. Mr. Whitney, he'll be the GC on the job and oversee all the operations. We could utilize our highway again for the plantings of the wetland plantings and the dredge the outfalls and the micro wetland basins to construct those. Those will be going on at the same time as the grant project. We also discussed the aerial drone scans. There'll have to be some drones, Bobby, going around, so. But Mr. Whitney said it was looking into the cost for that, and we're in constant communication, so he'll let me know. We might have to get another expert in that realm to give us some advice. Also, the permit was granted for the installation of the micro basin filters, so that's a good thing, and the highway is in the process of installing the deep sump basin by North Hillside Lake Road, right, Ken?
It's in.
Oh, it's in, so that's all in. Thank you to the highway superintendent and his staff. And finally, we've been keeping the valve open, even though the water, it's been raining, bad season, we've kept that valve open. We've only gained or lost an inch of water from since we started opening it. But the engineer is hopeful if it's not going to be so rainy, maybe in December we can remove the sediment. We do have the permit in place already to remove the sediment, so if the rain isn't so bad and the lake does lower, we can do that. So when we get closer, I'll be having another community meeting with the Hillside Lake community, so I'll let you know when that will be. We've been meeting a lot with the town planner, more and more. We have to hire a consultant now to review all the I-zones in town as per the moratorium that the town board passed last month. For those of you who might not know, we passed a moratorium on all I-zones that do not abut the Interstate 84. We have not had a comprehensive look at our zoning in many years, so this will be the start. Mrs. Robbins has sent out an RFQ or request for qualifications, and once we have them in, we'll review them and choose a candidate. So I'm looking forward to that. And on another note, for those of you who might not know, the company Copart has removed their application with our planning board for their proposed project at the Stormville Airport property. I have a letter that I'm going to read into receipt and file later in the meeting. I also had a meeting today with excuse me, one of our fire commissioners. I have a monthly meeting with them usually. And every quarter, we also have a meeting with the deputy supervisor and the town attorney with the fire board of commissioners. But I like to have a monthly meeting with them to keep apprised of what's going on at the fire district and problems going on with the town and the fire district. You know, they do a lot. The fire volunteers, EMS, they save the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. So whatever the town board could do to help facilitate better planning and negotiating with them or whatever have you, we are for it. And if anybody wants to volunteer, please visit your local firehouse. Visit the fire district headquarters on Route 52. There's 2 wonderful secretaries there. They'll give you an application, you fill it out. You could please help volunteer. Also, we met with some residents from Worley Homes. We had more discussions about possible water routes and possible cost savings that we can have because of that. And also for a better source of water. We have been discussing about intermunicipal water discussions, and it possibly comes up that we can use a source from another town. So that might throw a little bend in our plan, but it will end up being better for the community. So I had them in, we had a discussion, and you know, there's a lot of projects in town, many projects, and I try to meet with as many people as I can to give them the information. And I appreciate whoever comes to those meetings, because I know you're busy with your families, with your children, so thank you to whoever comes. You tell your neighbors about what's going on, and that's the best way to get information. And this is why I love our community so much, because after all the nonsense and stuff that you hear on social media and all the half-truths that are said on this, in the end, we all come together. We help one another. This is what our community is about. So I appreciate all the good people in this town, and it's nice to see that East Fishkill, we have a majority of good people, not bad people. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. And with that, would the clerk call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro?
Present.
Councilperson Franco?
Present.
Councilperson Beepin?
Present.
Supervisor D'Alessandro?
Present. Thank you. And I'll jump ahead to approving of the minutes. Did everybody receive the September 27th and October 11th, 2018 minutes?
Yeah.
Any changes? Any?
No.
No? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it's approved, thank you. Okay, we have two public hearings tonight. The first is the public hearing for the budget, the general and highway budget and special districts. Do I have a motion to open that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing's now opened. So, we have started the budget. I have given the budget to the town board. Just a few comments about that. Mark Posniak, he's sitting over here on this side. He's going to give us a presentation, but before that, he is our town comptroller. Mark and I have completed and presented the budget to the town board. I applaud everybody who's involved. Another year of excellence of town finances. It's a quality budget. It's a very low tax increase. A typical home pays about an increase of $30 a year, or what I like to say 57 cents a week. The total town budget is $23 million, which is about 12.9 million is the tax levy. That's the amount that is raised through taxes. That amount will be increased by 2.66%, which is the 57 cents a week on average that I said before. Once again, we're adding to the town financial record of low tax increases for the residents, for the taxpayers, and the businesses, while all continuing full services of all that we do, town roads, town maintenance of properties, town recreation, and of course our full-time police department. All without having to break our New York State imposed tax cap, and we have never broken the tax cap, and we're not breaking the tax cap in this budget either. Mark, what percentage of the town budget is the whole annual person's tax bill?
It's about 10%.
So 10%. On this chart here, you could see that 10%, the little sliver, is the amount represented of your total taxes by the town. That is what the town board and I can control. That's what we can influence. That's what we vote on. 10%. 10% shows on this chart everything that you get for 10%. You get your highway department, police department, parks and recreation, and everything we do here at the town hall, the town board, assessment, planning, zoning, building department, all the administration, the license and permitting, the clerk's office, everything we do for 10% of your tax dollars. The county, I believe, is 11% get of your tax dollars, and the largest one, of course, is the school district, 76%. We all work very hard here, all the department heads, the employees, the town board, the comptroller and his staff. We put it all together. We work together on the budget for the last several months. We work together to save dollars wherever we can and look for more revenue wherever we can too. We share services, like I said before, which is a big success, huge success. It saves us a lot of money, and we always look to do more and more. We have consolidated departments over the years, intra-town government, and that also helps us. We seek grants whenever we can, federal, state, county grants. We do whatever we can to get more revenue in and drive the town revenue of taxes down for you. So property taxes represent about 62% of our annual revenue. The rest of the revenue is a mix of mortgage taxes, sales taxes, departmental fees, state reimbursements, water and sewer taxes. But 62% is what we get from the taxpayer, and all of that is 10% of all the taxes you pay. We will have an increase in our fund balance or our savings account. We usually have a surplus at the end of the year, so that always goes towards fund balance. You know, we need to have a healthy fund balance. For emergencies, emergencies come all the time. So since the town board, we've been very prudent with the tax dollars, so we could ride out tough times like in 2008 when we had the recession. If we didn't have a healthy fund balance, we probably would have gotten through that. We maintain a high credit rating, which shows you that we're very prudent with the taxpayer dollars. You know, we still haven't recovered fully from the 2008. A lot of revenues aren't the same as it used to be, and they might not come back, but we still move forward. We never broke the tax cap, and I hope we never will. But we need the fund balance for emergencies, weather emergencies, like the tornado we had this past winter. We didn't get any money from FEMA for that because it was an isolated incident, and in that matter of fact, they told us that they won't give us any money because it wasn't, all the towns that had losses didn't reach the threshold for FEMA to give any dollars out. So that's when we have to go to our fund balance. We have to go to our savings account to help clean up the town roads and whatnot. And it's a rainy day fund, just like many of us have at home. We need those rainy day funds in our own bank accounts, and we try to save as best we can. But like I said before, we try to focus on what the town board and the residents prefer to keep as top priorities, like paving, town safety, recreational services. We're adding another $100,000 to our paving budget this year. We did another, last year we had a $100,000 additional, and this year also. And, you know, like I said, it's like ingredients in our great place to live recipe. We need certain things in the recipe, and those are them. Some things you can't live without, and that's why I focused on those items. So with that, I just wanted to give a little sense on where your dollars go and how we try to save for you. And does the comptroller want to do the presentation now?
Sure.
And then we'll have comments?
Yep. Good?
Sure, that's good.
All right. So for the 2019 budget, it's considered preliminary at this point. After public comments, the town board will have the opportunity to make changes and adopt the budget. So this is a summary of the entire town budget. At the top, you have the general and highway funds, which all taxpayers contribute to and all taxpayers benefit from. Then below that are special districts. Those are specific to certain neighborhoods, I'll say, starting with the lighting districts, moving down through water districts, sewer districts, et cetera. The first column is the total amount we're budgeting for expenditures next year for each of the funds or districts. Second column represents the amount of revenues, non-property tax revenues, that we're anticipating for 2019. The third column is the amount of fund balance that we're planning to use next year. So other than Loma Park, we're not planning to use any fund balance to support operations. So if you start with your total expenditures, you subtract out your expected revenues and expected use of savings, so to speak, what's left is the amount required to be raised by taxes in order to have a balanced budget. So that's the fourth column. After that, it shows the tax rate required to make that property tax amount. So I'm going to start with the special districts. The first group is pretty simple. These are lighting districts, the Hopewell Junction Lighting District, Hillside Lake, Dogwood Knolls, Beekman, Four Corners, et cetera. They're really simple because there's really only one expense in those districts. It's the Central Hudson cost. We get one bill a month for each of those districts. It comes to a very predictable amount, and we need to raise that amount entirely in taxes. Those districts have no other source of revenues. Those amounts that we're raising in 2019 are all substantially the same as what was raised in 2018. So for the most part, no increase or decrease. And those taxes are based on the assessed value of the homes in those districts. So looking at the first district, just as an example, if you live in the Hopewell Junction Lighting District, you're going to pay almost 16 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So if you live in a $300,000 house, you would pay about $48 next year for your Hopewell Lighting district taxes. Okay, so moving then down to the water and sewer districts. The water and sewer districts the taxes are not based on assessed value of the house. They're based on something called benefit units. The benefit unit represents an attempt to be your reasonable share of the usage or the capacity of that district. For the most part, all houses would be the same amount. We don't distinguish between 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses. All residential houses in a district will either be one benefit unit, or some have a different scale. They might be 100 benefit units. We do have a few apartments that may be classified as a fraction of a benefit unit, say 0.6 benefit units. Otherwise, the only difference would be commercial properties. So if your water or sewer district has commercial properties in it, they're going to have a benefit unit assignment of something other than 1, for those where 1 is the standard, or 100, where 100 is the standard. And their benefit assignment is based on their expected usage. Okay? So there's a formula that's based on square footage, based on business type. You know, a restaurant would have a higher factor than an office building. So with the water and sewer districts, as a general rule, we raise in quarterly operating fees. People in those districts get a bill every quarter. In water districts, it's based on your water usage. In sewer districts, it's a flat amount. Those revenues, again, for the most part, go to support the operations of the district. The tax revenues raised for those districts generally go to support the debt in those districts. Debt is incurred for the acquisition, the construction, or significant improvements to the district. Again, for the most part, those rates are staying the same in 2019 as they did in 2018. There's a couple of exceptions. In Brettview, in a couple of the districts, but Brettview had the largest share of the bond. It was paid off in 2018. So their tax rate is decreasing from $427.49 per house in 2018. They'll only pay $72.34 in 2019, so that's a reduction of $355.15. And again, that represents a bond payment that's now gone away. There's a similar amount in Revere Park. The rates are going to go down by 33%, again, representing the reduction of debt in that district. There is an increase in Fishkill Plains for anticipated new debt payments. It's going to be a $39.61 per household increase. There also, because of the new debt acquired by Fishkill Plains, there's going to be increased operations and maintenance rates in the Brettview districts that are supplied by Fishkill Plains. But otherwise, taxes are going to be flat or slight decreases in the water and sewer districts. Do you want to stop and have questions just about the special districts and then move on? Okay.
Sure. Any town board members wish to make questions on the special districts? Or anyone from the public wish to stand, sure, and come and ask questions about your special district or any others? Please just step up to the podium.
Good evening, and thanks for the presentation. I do have a question in regards to, I guess it would cover all lighting districts. And if I may just speak specifically so that their response can probably be specific also. In the Hillside Lake Lighting District, the $21,000, is that a flat rate applied by Central Hudson for X amount of poles that are in there with lights on them?
Yeah, so with Hillside Lake and with all of the lighting districts, the bill is, every type of pole has a lighting unit that's,
The illumination.
the different illumination, they all have different rates. So you could even have 4 or 5 different types within a district, each with
Wattage or LEDs or?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So it's a prescribed rate. They also have, there is fluctuation, but it's based on daylight hours.
Okay.
So they're not actually measuring the usage at the pole. They're estimating the usage based on
Overall
formula.
usage.
Overall, yeah, it's the same for all districts. So you do pay a little bit more in the winter than you do in the summer.
Okay.
But it's, you know, it's a preset formula.
Okay, so now the $21,000, as it is divided amongst the homes that are in that district, that is a set figure of,
By assessment,
so
so,
if you have a $100,000 home,
yep, it's about 25 cents per thousand. So
Okay.
a $100,000 home would pay $25
$25.
and 7 cents.
okay, all right, yeah, okay, that pretty much answers my question. I was curious if it was a flat rate.
No, the lighting districts are based on assessed value. The water and sewer districts' tax is based on benefit unit assignment.
Okay, so if there happened to, because I know they've been replacing a lot of the lights with LEDs, is that anticipated to diminish in cost then because of usage?
Yeah, in theory, if it's a more expensive lighting
Apparatus.
unit is replaced by a less expensive, then you would. Now, so we've talked with Central Hudson about this, and I mean, a lot of the replacement happens only when there's a failure. They're not proactively necessarily going and replacing lights, but as there is a need to.
If they have to
Repair.
replace the fixture, they'll replace it with the LED?
That's right.
Okay.
If they need to replace a fixture, it'll be with a more efficient.
So, is the town confident that there is an actual inventory of when that happens and cost relationship?
I can look into it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Mr. Comptroller, can you explain why we're using fund balance to pay for part of the Loma Park district?
Okay, so it's, to be clear, it's Loma Park fund balance paying for Loma Park expenditures. So there are a couple of residents of Loma Park that have taken a lead on managing the park facilities. And, you know, this is again a budgeted item, but they most likely will not actually use any of that fund balance. So that's more of a, in case we have these expenditures, so we don't have to come back to the town board and do a budget transfer, we're going to budget slightly high and we'll use fund balance if necessary. But they're actually looking to do a capital improvement to their roof, and they're going to hope to actually increase fund balance rather than decrease it. So.
Thank you.
So on the lighting question,
Yeah.
and I don't know, but $21,000 sounds like a lot of money to me. When you go through the Hillside Lake development, I don't know about the rest of the developments, but some places have lights, other places are dark when you're going through there. I'm wondering, well, I have lights all over my property. I'm wondering if there's a way that people could participate in maybe doing away with, well, actually, they would have to get, Central Hudson would get paid somehow. But if the people could provide some lighting, could probably do a better job in lighting up all of Hillside Lake than what's there right now, and maybe You know, and there would, I mean, it would have to be thought about. There would have to be accountability, the people would have to be, but if they want to participate in lighting up a certain area, maybe you could do away with Central Hudson. Am I making myself clear or not really?
In what manner?
Well, in other words, take the business away from them for $21,000. I think that the people, if they wanted to participate, could put lights out
But
on
they're
their
going to get
property.
paid Central Hudson anyway, because
Well,
you're,
that's what I said before. They're going to get some, but I don't know that they'll get $21,000. And you'll be able to light the whole lake up with LEDs, which they're not doing right now. They want to do them when they go out. It's just a thought. All right?
thanks,
Thank you.
Bob. Anyone else wish to speak on special districts, water districts, sewer districts, lighting districts?
Or solar, Nick, or solar.
That's the best.
Hi. I just had a couple of questions about how the rate is structured for the Beekman water and sewer. As I understand it, we have like two billings. One that comes on a variable basis, usage on water, and the other is to pay off the bond. So I'm just trying to understand, when I look at your first column, there's an estimated total amount, then you have what I think are recoveries or receivables or whatever it is that you collect, and then you then...
Sure. So Beekman is a little bit different, and that's why I try to speak in generalities. When I said that taxes, for the most part, go towards paying the debt, and the quarterly operating bills that you receive goes towards the operations. In Beekman, it's almost all of the expenses, the debt and the operations are
Combined.
into the water, the quarterly bills that you receive. You can see for Beekman sewer, there's only $5,000 in taxes being raised, and Beekman Water may have none. Let me see.
But the bond covers both
Well, the
the
24,000.
water and sewer, correct?
So there are two separate bonds that the amounts are more than what's being collected in taxes.
Okay.
The annual debt service. So some of the debt service is actually being raised through the quarterly bills.
Okay, so are you also building in a buffer for, so like a capital fund in case?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
So
something breaks down?
in all of the water and sewer districts, what we try to do is have a small operating surplus every year.
Okay.
And that surplus goes towards future capital expenses, deferred maintenance, basically, so that the wear and tear on the pipes now, you're sort of paying
Yeah,
for
paying
their
ahead.
replacement.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Yeah, that's good.
Right.
So to net this out, is the rate fairly constant from 2018 to 2019, or has it gone up a little?
Yeah, so the tax amounts, I'll tell you first. For Beekman Water, it's the same, about $84 per household, or per benefit unit. I think they're all the same in Beekman. There may be slightly different for the golf clubhouse, but, and then for the sewer, okay, it was 0 in 2018, it'll be $17 in 2019.
Great.
So $17 more.
So, and that's, when you say the town taxes, that's all included in that 2.6% increase?
That's right. So the 2.6, if you look at, so the first column is all of our expenditures,
Yep.
then our revenues, then use of fund balance. That fourth column is the amount we're raising by taxes, so 14,500,000, I can't see very well. 14,500,000.
Yes.
That's being raised
good.
by 2.6%.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice job.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, just so, kind of moving on, we're actually going to go through some of the same information that the supervisor did, so I'll be brief. With the general fund and highway funds, I would say the biggest change is the $100,000 extra dollars in paving. We're constantly trying to increase that paving budget in the highway. Everything else is inflationary changes or adjustments accordingly. So you've seen this chart before, but again, I think it's something worth emphasizing that for the most part, we haven't increased our spending from 2001 through 2017. It's basically flat, slightly more in 2017 than in 2011. Our 2018 and 19 budgeted amounts do show small increases, but we're hopeful that we won't actually spend the full amount that's budgeted. I think when we're sitting here in 2020, I'm hoping that line continues flat. So again, the supervisor mentioned that for the average home, you probably paid about $961 in town taxes. That's that 10%. And in 2019, that same home would probably pay about $991. Again, I'll be quick here. That represents the share of highway, police, recreation, and all the town hall functions as percentages of general fund and highway fund expenses. Where your property taxes go, as was mentioned, 76% to the school, 11% to the county, 10% we keep, 2% to the fire district, and 1% to the library. Tax cap will not be exceeded and hasn't been exceeded. One of our biggest cost increases for 2019 is health insurance, and this has been a big problem, or one of our biggest increases every year, for probably the last 5 or 6. Again, as was mentioned, this is the second year in a row we've budgeted $100,000 more in our paving line. Minimum wage is still increasing and will continue increasing. This mostly affects our camp and Red Wing operations, where the entry-level positions there are making minimum wage, and we're going to have to use our costs at those for those two functions. And this is just showing that we, over the last couple of years, have increased the amounts we're getting reimbursed from the county and from the school for police officers that are performing county-wide functions and school-specific functions. So they're basically paying for the officers doing those duties. And that's all I have for the presentation, so open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Comments?
Does anybody on the board, or let's start with the public, does anybody in the audience like to come and speak on the 2019 budget, proposed budget? Any comments, questions, considerations? Thanks, Mike. No, go ahead, Mr. DeMasso.
Yeah, hello again. I do have a question, and I'm not certain how to convey the question. Recently, I personally, and I think a lot of other people in the neighborhood anyhow, received a reevaluation of my property value. It was, I believe, approximately 1%. And my question is, that 1% of increased assessment, is that included in the 2-point-something% that was discussed of raising the property value or the tax rate, or is the 2-point-something% going to be on
Before
top?
that amount, you're saying, is it included in that amount?
Yeah, so, I'll give an example that I think will answer your question. Let's say we raised $10 million in taxes this year. Then next year, your properties are all reassessed for 10% more. But we raise the same amount in property taxes. Everyone would still pay the same amount as long as everyone went up by 10%.
I realize the bottom
Yeah.
line has to
Yeah.
be, okay.
So an increase in your assessment doesn't necessarily have any impact on what the increase would be in what you're paying. only if you're being assessed for more than, say, your neighbor, the increase,
Okay.
right? But it is factored in, the 2.66% is the gross number that we're increasing the taxes by.
So it will in fact then be on, that 2.66% will be the increase on top of the newly assessed value.
It's not, no, it's not on top of, it's how much more we're raising in taxes.
Okay.
Right.
So are you able to tell me how widespread that 1%, approximately 1% assessed?
I think that was a
reassessment?
pretty.
What happens is
yeah.
the town of East Fishkill, as you know, several years ago went through a reassessment
Oh,
where
boy, do I ever,
we're
yeah.
at full value.
Yeah.
So in order to maintain full value, the assessor works with New York State and they do a trending increase. So as the economy improves and stocks of housing are increasing in value, she does a large-scale adjustment in a trending formula.
Okay.
Okay, so that 1% would be reflective of a class of housing stock in the town that has seen an increase in the market to try to keep the assessment roll aligned with full value.
So in other words, if I understand you correctly, it may be applied to homes that may fall within the price range of 150,000 and 250,000.
Correct, that we're on the roll it that way, and they've all increased in the market, so there's a trending increase of, say, 1%. So it's not specific for a neighborhood, it's done on a housing stock basis.
Okay, thanks, that explains it. Thank you very much.
Tom, is that reassessment process, is it something that the state mandates, or is it?
Yeah, what happens is, in order for us to keep our certification as full value, we have to go through that. When a property owner receives that notice, if they have a disagreement with it, they have the entire, they can file a grievance, they can meet with the assessor, they go to a board of review, and then the roll is closed out. But every year, and some years it's trended downward too. You know, it works both ways. And that's the only way we stay certified as a full value assessment roll. And because of that, we get additional state aid and things like that. And it's healthier in the market. Everyone's values are kept current, so.
I know that we revised that formula I believe, maybe 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, full value assessment.
Correct.
Is there a
2008.
benefit of using that type of assessment compared to what we were using before?
Is it better?
What is the benefit to
Okay,
the
the benefit,
taxpayers?
well, I'll try to keep it brief, but in the past, what would happen is a property would be assessed, and the assessment would remain the same, and every year the state would create what's known as the equalization rate. And they said, so in East Fishkill, these houses have been on the roll at $100,000, but when we look out in the market, we think they're worth more than that, so they do an equalization rate, which artificially changes the values of everybody's property. So now, when we switched, and we went through all the pain and agony of adjusting everyone's assessment to come more in line with market value, it's now geared towards the market. So if there's a reduction, like, you know, certain homes, certain value range, I think if you read the real estate reports, certain target price homes have increased in value, whereas others on different ends of the spectrum haven't. So that's how the adjustment. In the state, actually, when you close on a property, the report of the sale is sent to the state. That data comes to the assessor. There's a statistical analysis done. They pick out certain properties in each town, and it's a huge process that goes on all year round. And that's how they determine what properties need to be trended in value. And so the town assessor then has to sit down with all of that material and make a decision as to what trending value should be adjusted, and that's what happens. So hopefully, the value on your assessed value on your tax bill is more reflective of what the market value is. It's not perfect, but it should be closer. But I also want to caution, many people will see we're talking about a certain level of tax increase. When you get your tax bill, it's not going to be exactly that percentage because you have the trending, but we also have other things that impact the assessment roll, and thank God we only have a few, but we'll do tax certiorari reductions. So the assessment roll last year may have been, I'll use the number, $100 million. This year it may only be $99.9 million. So that obviously affects the bills. So while this is an accurate number for the budget, when it gets out into that process, your actual bill may be slightly different, plus or minus, depending upon all those other factors.
And also, like the attorney said, with the assessment roll, We do receive state aid, so she's very busy. She has to stay within, I believe, a few percentage points, is it,
Correct,
Tom?
right.
Otherwise, we lose our certification, and then we wouldn't be qualified for the aid that we do get. So, just wanted to add that. Anybody else in the audience like to comment on the budget? Comments, questions, considerations? No? Anybody on the board wish to comment on the budget? Questions?
Well, I have a comment. I mean,
yeah.
basically, I believe that probably this year, more so, we really try to work a lean budget for the community. But I know that, you know, I stay in touch with our controller, and we have these discussions all the time as far as spending is concerned. I mean, I know that we're doing a great job. We stood under the tax cap, but I hope that the supervisor, you know, in the future, we could really, our goal is really to find additional savings, and I know that we have been working hard on that. I personally think that we're on the right track. We will improve, and possibly once the economy turns around, I mean, we're all optimists, and we really work putting together more jobs in the community and creating more opportunities for everybody. Maybe one day we'll be able to say that we will be able to reduce taxes rather than say, you know, this year we're going to increase it 2.7, 3.0.
Right.
That is the goal.
Right. A comment on that. I could have decreased about 100,000 out of this budget, but I put it in the paving,
Yeah, no.
you know.
No, it's certain things are necessary, we probably, I mean, certain things need to be addressed, and I think that we have addressed it. As I said, now that Nick has become town supervisor, he realized certain things that could be done better, certain money that could be returned to the taxpayers of East Fishkill. He knows. I know that I addressed that in the past with our county executive. Nick has done the same thing this year. We need to work on that. You know, that's probably $350,000 a year that we could use in our town. If one day, sooner rather than later, we could receive that money back, that's all money that could be going to paving and other important projects that we want to do for the town. So I think that all in all, we did a good job.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mark, I have a question. The health insurance premiums that we had for this year that were up, where do you see those numbers going next year? Is there any chance of them lowering, or are we going to head
No
for
chance
another-
of them lowering, yeah.
Any more increases?
More increases. It's really a question of, you know, is it going to be double digits or high singles? And, I mean, I don't see any, not in the near future. But,
Is that our biggest challenge that we're facing right now in the future? Or
Well,
what would you
it's-
say is our biggest challenge, other than paving?
well, I was going to say paving, to me, is the number one priority, that
Right.
we need to invest in the infrastructure of the town, and we need to find money for paving. Health insurance is a big cost. You know, it's close to 20% of the general and highway fund cost, and it's, when it goes up by 8, 9, 10%, you know, that's a significant amount of dollars that need to be found elsewhere. We are looking into ways, so we have a health insurance broker. I've tasked him with finding an alternative plan that will hopefully be less expensive and, you know, maintain coverage. So hasn't come back yet with premiums, but that's the task we've taken. We've also, over time, negotiated greater employee contributions. So every contract, basically, for the last 3 or 4, we've increased the amount of employee contributions, so that has helped mitigate this as well.
And also ironically, about 5, 6 years ago, we went out and did change a good
Yes,
part
I
of our
remember.
health insurance. We were fortunate to have a good savings, but that savings has been eaten away by the continual increases in the insurance coverage. So while we were beneficiaries of that for about a year or two, that the savings that we benefited from then has all but disappeared.
We're hoping to try that again, like with another new plan that might save, but yeah, as the attorney said, we saved 300,000 that first year, and then it was whittled down to 200, then 100, and now there's no savings at all for that alternate plan that we introduced 4 years ago or so.
Right. I want to take a quick moment. I want to applaud our highway superintendent, Kenny Williams. I drove around with him today for probably just over an hour. He was showing me around some of the paving jobs that they did. And for the limited budget that he had, you know, I thought the amount that he did, and it was only a portion of the town, I thought it was fairly considerable. And him and his crew, I'm very, very appreciative of what you guys have done. Kenny, how do you see where you guys are headed? Everything, we know we got to get more money for paving. That's the 100-pound gorilla in the room. We all know that.
Nick and I have been talking, and he has a good plan for us for the future on where we want to get to. And if we can get back up to like the 1.5, we will be really good. That'll really help us out. But again, we picked the worst of our roads, and we tackled the worst sections. And like Tom saw today, we've gotten quite a bit done. Scott was a big help with picking out some of the worst part of our roads and working together. We've all been pretty much working together. The guys are doing great, and we're not done yet. We're going to keep going for hopefully another month to continue on with our paving.
As a follow-up to that, if we were able to get your paving budget up to 1.5, would you and your crews be able to handle the paving at that amount or that rate?
We would sub that out at that rate. This year, we had decided we had purchased a smaller paver. It's not a large road paver, so we're doing smaller sections rather than haul roads. The worst parts of the roads is what we're doing. So
We're
that
doing
would-
major
We're not doing
patching,
major paving.
Yeah, this is just major repairs.
Right, major repairs, we're fixing the drainage before we go in and pave, so any rotted pipes that are under these roads, we're changing them before we pave, and catch basin work prior to the paving.
Thank you.
Ken, on that note, is there something else that we could do rather than paving the full roads? I know there's some roads, they need to be repaved, but since East Fishkill is so wide and so
Large,
extended,
yes. It's the largest town in Dutchess County.
to maintain certain roads longer than, I mean, the average repaving between repaving the same road is about 15 years, give and take. Are there anything else that we could do to stretch, I mean, ideally, I know that people, you know, from year to year, they do put coats on their driveways. Is there anything out there that we could use to keep the roads refreshed, and maybe we don't have to pay as much as they need to be paved?
Our biggest problem in some of our roads where they're really deteriorating is our drainage. So we're going in, correcting the drainage prior to paving. We're grinding out the worst parts, filling it in with a dense binder before we top coat it. Scott also worked with us with the tack machine. So we are putting a tack coat down prior to our paving to seal up the old pavement before we add the new pavement on there now as well. So we're working with what we've got, and what comes out in the future, we're more than willing to work with that too. Also, we seal up some of the cracks as well when we start to see them prior to them totally alligating.
So you don't advise, is there a technical thing out there where you could reseal? Let's say we just repaved Lake Walton Road. I drive on that road a lot.
Right.
And that's a high-traffic area. I think that road, in a few years, is probably going to need help again. But to maintain the road not to deteriorate quickly, do you advise, is there anything out there that where we could, let's say at night, maybe reseal that road? And I'm not saying just specifically that road, but, you know, go out and look at certain roads and say, okay, you know, we could do this area now, and this will buy us time. I mean, again, we're talking about money.
Normally, we don't reseal coat a road. That's not something we do. And keeping the shoulders clean and the drainage working, and keeping our catch basins clear, that is very important, so that the water doesn't seep under our roads. That's about our best what we can do right now.
I think something that the councilman is referencing is like, you can see it on our county roads that each year or, you know, every other year, they'll go out and they'll seal cracks in the road and maintenance like that. Do we
Right.
currently do that?
We do sub that out on occasion.
Okay.
Is that like is that what
It's
tacking is?
like a liquid tar. It's a different type of material.
Okay.
I mean, they were doing a lot of that on 84 the other day.
Yes.
Now, saying in that, like the councilman said, if we change the spec when they build a road, would that help prolong the life of the road? Or,
You talking about like on our new subdivision
Yeah.
roads?
not saying I want to add cost to developments, but would
Well, like
that,
in the case of Hopewell Glen, it all depends. Each site is a little bit different. In the case of Hopewell Glen, on the southern portion of the rail trail, it had very good granular soil, and we expect those roads to, you know, fare very well for you know, a decent amount of time. On the north side, though, the soil changed considerably. So on that new road they're putting, they put all fabric in underneath the road, under drains on both sides of the road to help, you know, prolong the life of that. So it's really case by case what type of soil you have and what the draining characteristics are.
okay.
And what we're
Oh,
And to
paving over.
the Councilman Marinaro's point, like Lake Walton Road, I would say in probably 5 years, we should be looking at like a micro overlay or something like that to put a seal on that. There's a window on these roads that when they're in good shape, if you stay on top of it, it's like keeping up on your house. You can prolong the life, but most of our roads are well beyond that point. So, you know, it wouldn't make sense to do that. But Lake Walton, we should be looking at in 5 years of doing something.
Yeah, right now, we're having a discussion about how we're going to plan for the future. I know what happened in the past, and we're not going to go back there and say should have, could have. But right now, where we are today, and how could we plan better and spend our money more effectively? You know, again, the $1.4, $1.5 million in repaving, yes. But if we don't maintain, like the town engineer just said, those roads, there is no end in spending. I mean, again, people do it at their houses. I think that there is nothing wrong with looking at that and say, okay, what can we do for our community? And invest our dollars and probably save some big bucks for the future.
Right.
So if you could look into that, Ken, I would
Sure.
appreciate,
Absolutely.
see if there is anything out there that we could, you know.
What Scott said, the micro paving is basically, after a good five or 6 years, that's probably the way to go, where we do a micro lay. But we're not equipped to do that, so that, again, would be something would have to be subbed out.
Well, maybe we could look at,
We could look into it.
we could look into that. If we were to do we sub out all the paving of all the roads, and we would do the micro ourselves in-house, then maybe that's something we could do.
Yeah, we could look into that.
Take a look at that maybe next year, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That was the time, Bobby.
I think maybe what Manny was talking about, and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think maybe he meant the same way you'll seal a driveway or whatever to prolong it, maybe without even doing the micro whatever that Scott was mentioning. Are there any sealers that could go down, aside from, you know, going and filling the cracks in the middle of the road, which is a big issue? I was on the phone with the state regarding that, because that's, aside from the drainage, when they do these state roads and everything, If they don't go back and seal the middle of that road where that blacktop meets, that's the beginning of one of the beginnings of undermining that property, that blacktop. That's where it all starts. So they told me they were in the process of doing that. But I think, getting back to what Manny said, I think maybe he meant something to the effect of the way you would do your
Right, like a
driveway, seal your
maintenance,
driveway.
right.
I don't know if they have a product out there like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but think about your driveway. When you seal
Yeah, go
your
ahead.
driveway, you're putting a ribbon across the end of it, and you're staying off it for a day or two. You can't do that with a road. You've got to have traffic on. So that's why you go with a micro overlay. It's got asphalt base. You know, in a short period of time, it cures enough you can put traffic on it. So,
You could detour cars for a day if it's gonna.
well, you got driveways that every so often, it's, you know,
People get home.
yeah.
Not on Lake Walton, that's what this is. But
That-
Bob,
that's-
on
that's-
Tuesdays.
that's very hard to do that.
On Tuesdays, I do all my calls to state agencies. I'm going to call, you're going to call with me. And I call these people.
Hey, Kenny, about 20 years ago or so, in, I guess, the town of Poughkeepsie, between College View Avenue and I think it was the eastbound arterial, I think the road is called Fairmount Drive, and they put down this ultra-thin product. It may have been rubberized, I'm not certain what it was. And they said it was supposed to have some tremendously long life expectancy. Are you familiar with any of the products?
Are you talking about the micro paving, what we were just speaking of?
Excuse me if I missed that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the micro paving.
Okay.
Anybody else wish to speak on the budget? Any comments, questions, concerns? No? Anybody else, our town board? Comments? No? Okay, so with that, okay, well, do I have a motion to close and adopt the budget, close the public hearing and adopt the budget for 2019?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Budget is passed. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming for that. Thank you. Brian. We have a second public hearing tonight. And that is the proposed zoning amendments. Do I have a motion to open the proposed zoning amendments on Route 52 and 82 for the mixed-use permits?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is now opened. So we had a workshop, I think a month ago, was it? Our planner was here to discuss our, some of the zoning amendments that we're wishing to do. We have met with our Business and Economic Revitalization Committee and discussed this several times, right, Councilman? We've done now 2 or 3 meetings with that. Basically, East Fishkill, our comprehensive planning goals are pretty clear. We need and want to expand the business districts, and we want to include in some fashion mixed uses that would incorporate, you know, residential units. It's a big need, and we know that there's a huge need. We have Dutchess County does rental housing surveys every year, which we are, I have given the town board copies of, and we are in need, senior housing, all sorts of different housing stocks. So, you know, East Fishkill, in those different housing stocks, East Fishkill for residential units only represents 0.9% of the county share. So with that, it would help economic development and help other problems with housing stock. So our planner's going to give us a little overview of the amendments. Would you like to start that?
Sure. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the proposed mixed-use zoning special permit. First, I'm just going to start with defining what mixed-use zoning is. Mixed-use development is characterized as a pedestrian-friendly development that blends 2 or more uses together, be it residential, commercial, cultural, institutional, and/or industrial uses. it can be combined in a single building, or it can be combined on a single lot in more than one building. This variety of uses allows for people to live, work, play, and shop in one place, which then becomes a destination for people from other surrounding residential neighborhoods. And I've included pictures on all these slides. None of them are in East Fishkill. I just wanted to give you examples of basically town or village scale mixed use, because a lot of times you'll see mixed use in urban areas and they'll be in larger buildings, but there is also suburban and village scale mixed use, and most of the examples I'm showing are that. What are the benefits of mixed use zoning? Town centers are more dynamic and sustainable with an appropriate mix of complementary uses. Most traditional neighborhoods and main streets have always balanced the mix of residential and pedestrian-friendly commercial uses in a similar manner to what the proposed mixed-use district would permit. Expected benefits would be a reduction in vehicle miles traveled because there'd be more people walking between uses rather than driving, resulting in lower greenhouse gas emissions, lower commuting costs, and decreased road congestion. There'd be livelier town centers with public gatherings places and a variety of shops, restaurants, and entertainment. Complete neighborhoods where residents can live, work, and play. There'd be more diverse housing stock for people of all incomes and at all stages of life, and then more vibrant commercial areas that provide retail and services for patrons. When you have mixed-use development, you can actually compact development, which helps preserve open space in the outlying areas by reducing the need and demand for low-density sprawling development. And it also provides for a more efficient use of services and infrastructure, and that results in cost savings for the public. So where typically should mixed-use development go? Compact mixed-use development is most appropriate in places where a community wants to encourage economic activity and walking, create a sense of place, and provide a range of services and activities for residents and employers. In the town of East Fishkill, right now, we're considering 2 locations for mixed-use development. One is the Hopewell Junction Hamlet, essentially along Route 82 between Trinket Lane and Orchard Place, which is, for those of you who don't know who Orchard Place is, it's right before the bridge. That's because those locations already have access to sewer and water infrastructure, and it makes sense to locate mixed-use development where there's existing infrastructure. It's also because it's the commercial area of town. And also along the Route 52 corridor between Limekiln Road and Corporate Park Drive. Again, another major commercial corridor in town. Obviously, there's differences between these 2 corridors, and we may want to consider different design standards and maybe even different scale of uses along the 2 corridors, and that can be debated. There's key elements of the proposed mixed-use zoning include the special permit that we've drafted and allows for 2nd and possibly 3rd floor residential above ground floor commercial. It doesn't change the underlying zoning, so you can still do what you currently can do. There's no change to that, but if you want to have a mix of uses on the site, then you apply for a special permit to allow that. It allows a wider variety of permitted uses, promotes attractive design because there will be some design standards related to the mixed use. We'll encourage pedestrian-friendly building design and site layout because we're trying to activate the town centers. We're trying to get people out and about and into the businesses to promote economic development and revitalization. Unobtrusive parking is typical of mixed-use zones. The idea is to hide the parking and again, make it more pedestrian-friendly, and appropriately scaled building heights. The example on this slide there's a 3-story building, and you can see that the ground floor is typically a little taller than the residential floors above, allowing for the commercial use to sort of take the front facade and create a commercial corridor with residential above. And then the other key element is that in our zoning, we're requiring a connection to public sewer and water. Another thing to discuss is setbacks. The proposed setbacks in the mixed-use district are intended to be smaller than typical or auto-oriented suburban development. So right now, we have relatively large setbacks in our zoning that makes it sometimes difficult for businesses to to come up front towards the street and have that pedestrian connection. So under the mixed-use zone, we would probably consider smaller setbacks along the front. Typically, you see about a 12-foot setback. That can be debated. It depends on, obviously depends on the hamlets and the areas. But a 12-foot setback from the curb line is typically recommended for a village town center of this scale, except along arterial streets, and arterial streets are streets that are major roadways that connect more local roads to highways. So if it's a larger road, you want to allow for greater buffering between the pedestrians and the traffic, so then you have a slightly larger setback. And then I think we should consider flexible side and rear setbacks because it helps promote more efficient site design. And then I just included some examples of village-scale mixed-use buildings so people can get an idea of, and most of these, some of them are older development, most of them are newer development, and you can see the different scales. One of the other things that's typical with mixed-use is you see a varied roof lines, just to add architectural interest. Some of them are 3-story buildings, some of them are 2-story buildings. It's nice to have a mix because it doesn't create a wall with buildings, which makes it look a little bit more urban. But it's definitely helpful to encourage economic activity and hopefully get some more business to the restaurants and other retail shops in Hopewell. So that's the mixed-use building discussion. Does anyone have any questions?
Just, I got one. Parking. We're talking of moving the building closer to the road. So all the parking will go behind the buildings?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends on what the mixed use is. So if you're coming into if you're infilling, if you have an existing building,
Yeah.
and you're going to want to make it mixed use, you're probably not going to take the whole building down and change it. But if you're coming in if you're taking a whole building down and then changing it, you might want to push the parking to the rear. It just depends on the situation. And I think in some cases you can do that, in some cases you might not be able to. Ideally, if in a mixed-use district, ideally you put the parking behind because that encourages the pedestrian activity.
Right.
But it can't necessarily be done everywhere.
But in a lot of cases, are the apartments going to be able to go above the buildings, or is it going to be affected by parking? Just a question. Are we opening that up to, if he wants to put an apartment above his pizzeria, where are the tenants going to park? And there's going to, most likely, in a lot of cases, because we're moving, hopefully, some of the elderly people or whatever downtown, they're still going to have a car, and they're going to be home while the place is open.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think,
considering parking.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't approve a special permit to allow a residential use unless there's appropriate parking allotted on that use, for that use. And I think we also may have to be a little bit creative. Most towns that have a village sort of neighborhood scale where they have a lot of activity are more creative with their parking. They sometimes have shared parking arrangements with other businesses. They sometimes have municipal lots set up. But absolutely, that's part of the review. Before anything gets approved, we'd have to consider where the parking would go.
Right, we'll have to consider municipal lots and a different location, maybe several locations.
The police department looks at that as a fundraiser.
We talk about how many times have we discussed, many people come and tell us, how can you fix the town? The main street of the town looks terrible. We don't have a village feel. It doesn't look like Village of Millbrook or Fishkill, and you don't have that walkability. Well, this is our chance. This is our chance to give the tools needed for these developers and property owners a chance to fix their buildings, have more revenue, and have a more cohesive look. We're going to try to have different looks that the town would like the developers and the property owners to go for, so we have a more unified look, so it doesn't look like a hodgepodge of buildings put together in 4 different decades. And we want a vibrant town center. We have water and sewer. That's the main components to have to produce buildings and economic centers. So we we have to be smart about it, and this is why we're trying to plan this. Smart growth, we want to use different land uses. We want to try different housing stocks. We want to keep certain neighborhoods. We want to keep farmland. We want to keep the natural beauty areas. We got to be careful of critical environmental areas. So there's only certain places we can do this. And where it is in the town centers or the proposed town centers where we have water and sewer. So if this is successful, then we can expand in different little hamlets that we have. We have several hamlets in the town. We're fortunate. We have a large town. So this is the beginning of something that could be really great. So
If anybody has any questions or any comments on anything, they can come just speak with me. I'm here on Wednesdays and Fridays, but they can also call me and I will return your phone call.
thank you.
Just going off of what the supervisor mentioned before, said before, and I brought this up when you initially presented it a number of weeks ago. Like, I received some questions and concerns regarding East Fishkill losing its original hometown touch or feel to it. And as the supervisor mentioned, like, we have a lot of control over these zoning policies that we'll be putting in, and we can control what the town will look like and ensure that we won't lose that small town feel while, enacting some forward thinking to our village.
I think I tried to include all the different photos to show you the different styles, and certainly it's not all the styles,
Right.
but we could, if there was a particular design vernacular that we liked, or there was a certain, say we wanted to promote the Dutch history of the town, we could include roof lines and things that essentially gave a nod to that history. We could do a bunch of different things. We could use specified materials and other signage that keeps that feel or character that you want to have.
Right. Thank you.
Michelle, will this presentation, the draft, will it be on our website?
We can post it, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's already there, or you will?
No, it's not already there, but I can have it posted tomorrow.
So, I have just a question regarding, in your draft, you talk about alternative transportation while this is going on. What exactly, do you have anything in mind at this time?
Can you tell me where you're?
Okay, so what he says, the purpose of this, second paragraph, C, section C, promote the health and well-being of the residents by encouraging physical activity, alternative transportation.
Yeah, so alternative transportation would be, hopefully, and ideally, with a town center, if you have a certain massive activity, you can start having other transportation options, so potentially more buses. Maybe we could have more connections with the Dutchess County bus system and have other connections and transportation modes to other locations and in town and to other places in the county. So ideally, you would bring in transit. Also, you could allow for some sort of biking, but in addition, alternative transportation also refers to pedestrian modes, so that it can also mean just encouraging pedestrian activity as well.
So in order for that to take place, as far as alternative buses, we have to work with the county, right?
We would have to work with the county, and once once you have a certain level of activity, or if you have, for instance, a residential project of a certain scale, they often will ask you to include a bus stop or a transit stop at the location because they can add it onto their loop. And we could certainly, if we work on some of these improvements, we can certainly petition to see if we could get an additional, transit stop.
So also, on that note, while we're putting this in place, we really also have to get in touch with the Wappinger School District regarding bus stops for the schools, because they have certain requirements. Have you also taken in consideration that since we're going to allow multiple dwellings on top, there's probably going to be some children that are going to need to be picked up?
And that would be done when a specific application would come in. They would still have to go through all of the stuff that applications have to go through now, which is a site plan review and a seeker review. And all of that would be addressed during that time, and it would have to be considered and designed. And obviously it wouldn't be approved if it couldn't be done safely and in a way that was manageable for everybody.
So this will happen not while we're working on this. We do not have to also propose something right now while we're doing this, but rather when the applicants come through, let them go through that process and apply at that time?
No, I mean, actually, you could include, if you wanted to include in the zoning, you could say that, that the applicant should describe, how, I mean, I don't know if you'd be specific enough to say buses, but you could say, how, well, you could say even school children would be picked up in the event that it's a residential, the locations. You could also include in the zoning a requirement for some sort of concept master plan to come in, which shows how the site would work. And that's probably actually a really good idea to do, because then you could see it initially when it comes in as a concept plan, make your additional comments, and you might be able to pick up some of the issues that would become serious issues later on. So that's not a bad idea to actually ask for some sort of concept plan at the level of,
I think that probably that is necessary to kind of make the process expedited, like we did with the Route 52 corridor at the time. If we're going to start putting some of these changes in place, I'd rather that whatever agency, the planning board has a clear understanding of, all the changes that we imply in the process. So, there are times when certain project can't go forward because there's school issues and the buses, so that will be probably.
That absolutely be addressed when each
Yeah, yeah.
applicant comes forward. And also, that's spelled out in secret review, whatever the impacts are. That could be an impact of the school. They have to address it. What's their solution? But we can also, like you said, we could be even more proactive and now choose a particular spots, like Peter said also about town lots. If we were going to do town lots, we can also choose bus stops as well. So we could be more proactive in that. But Dutchess County Planning and our planning board, everybody, gives their comments. And I just passed this out. We got this actually today. We submitted the referral for all our proposed zoning amendments to the county, and they give a list of their comments and what they think we should do. But their number one comment was great. They said the department supports the introduction of mixed-use oriented zoning in established and emerging centers and commends the town for their proposal. So I appreciate that, actually, because this has been been a long process already, but and we're not nearly done. But it's nice to see that we're taking the needs of what our town needs and also trying to help economically and developmentally.
So one other comment that I have, I know that I made it in the past. I think this is a great endeavor, whatever we're trying to do over here. For myself, one of the big issues is, again, traffic, especially on that section of the town. And I know that we spoke about roundabouts. I know that probably once we put this law in place, the process will start sooner rather than later. And until we address the issue of traffic, will we be creating a nightmare for the town rather than wait a little bit and plan the whole thing according with transportation, DOT and stuff? That's just a comment that I have. I presented it before.
I think it's a big concern, yes, but I don't think that we should be handcuffed as to when the DOT is going to finally come up with money from New York State to fix our road, when we have several proposals where we can alleviate some traffic. The town can go ahead on its own and propose that back road that we did that could alleviate some traffic. And we discussed about having maybe some public meetings about that, outreach meetings, to see if we could get the easements to put that in place. And also we applied for the first part of the grant for the first hub of that road that will be going across the street from Trinca Lane, where it'll connect to, what is that?
Governor's Boulevard.
Yeah, to Fishkill Road. So that will definitely help our traffic, for sure. So we are trying to do these things even without the DOT saying, okay, well, we have your plan and we're going to approve it. Even if they did approve it and we got on the tip, it probably, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, it could take another seven or 8 years. And I don't want to miss the boat where you talk to many developers too. They say, you don't allow anything. You guys don't want to have improved economic development and put more businesses and try to improve. But we are. This is what we're trying to do. So I think we should do both. We should try to do both at the same time. And I don't know what else we can do, but plan and try to do or discuss about it. But I'm all open for all suggestions.
New York State DOT's been repairing 3 projects for over 20 years.
20?
20 years. They've been fixing 82, they've been fixing the bridge by my house, and they've been fixing in front of the Geeks Place. All started over 20 years ago. They did just repair some potholes.
No, they replaced the whole, they did the whole bottom of,
Pete,
the whole road of the bridge, they replaced that.
this is just a discussion. I mean, take, for instance, the Opal Glen project. Okay, the amount of traffic created by
Oh, no, I
that
agree with
project.
you.
Okay,
And they've been working on
you
that
know,
since the day, on 82 section, since the day we opened that development, how many years ago, Scott?
Hopewell
Then
Glen,
Hopewell Glen gave us $1 million to fix part of that problem.
800,000.
800.
And how many years has that been sitting there waiting for New York State
15
DOT?
No, we've
15
been
or
using that, Peter.
Yeah,
That's
but to fix
that's
the
why
intersection.
well, the plan, you could.
It started out for
Scott.
that intersection, but it's morphed into that connector road.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah.
But originally, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it was for the 82 end.
Right.
I mean,
So again, I think as a planner and board, it's a big issue that we need to address. Maybe we should keep pushing DOT to really, put something in place. Because again, this is a great project, but I don't want to hear the phone ringing and says, I'm stuck. Look, there was an accident the other night, a couple of nights ago, in front of Van Wyck, okay? It took me 45 minutes to go from Clove Branch Road to my place of business on 376, because everything was shut down.
Yep.
All right? So these are some of the issues that we have existing in the town. And to the people getting home and to the businesses, it happens once in a blue moon, but yet again, something happens.
Yep.
We do not have alternative routes to go where they gotta go, especially when people get home at night and they've been on the road coming from the city, and now they gotta sit in the traffic 45 minutes an hour to just drive another mile to get home. So these are real issues, and I just want to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? Anybody from the public wish to speak on proposed zoning amendments, changes?
That's for residential and commercial, right?
Could you step up to the microphone, sir?
Why wouldn't you go underground parking instead of, above ground for
What was your question, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
residential and commercial, this unit you're putting up? So why wouldn't you make it underground parking instead of above ground?
Oh, well, that's a big cost, but the developer can do it, yes,
So there are a
absolutely.
few of them in Connecticut already, on Westchester. And they're all underground parking for just residents, and then, so it alleviates the problem with parking.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great, we can offer that as an option in certain parts of, it's an old village, it's an old hamlet, so we're here at this problem because there wasn't planning done correctly years and years ago. So there's a lot of underground utilities and water and sewer, so, but in certain locations, yeah, absolutely, they could do that, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Well, we're not done discussing this mixed-use permits. We're going to adjourn this till December, so we can have more information to the town board and to the community. We'll put it on the website and out. If anybody has comments or questions, please call my office, 221-4303, or send an email like you always do. I receive a lot of emails. But this is exciting, and we have to move forward. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind, and then everybody's going to say, you didn't do anything. How come you didn't do it? So this is our chance to finally do something. Any other comments by the town? Anybody? Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing to December 13, 2018?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. This is adjourned to December 13th. You want to take a 2-minute break to do all the kids?
Yep.
Okay, why don't we
They might
take a
be done.
2-minute break?
They might be
Done
done
already.
already.
Done, okay, excellent.
Plow through.
Okay. We have one addition to the agenda tonight, which is at the place. It is to the promoting of a laborer to motor equipment operator, which I will read last. So that is our addition. Right now, it is courtesy of the floor. Anybody wish to speak on any general town issues, on any comments about the proposed resolutions tonight, anything at all, please step forward and make comments. Courtesy of the floor, yeah, you got it, Bob.
Bill Green, East Fiscal Director. Just a couple things. Number one, even though her official date for retirement is December 31st, I'd just like to acknowledge and recognize Tina Smalley for her 18 years of work in the Recreation Office as a health director in camp, and then in our little room over here helping to run not only the rec office but the rec maintenance, which was in existence then. And she not only did a great job, she did it professionally, whether she was answering the phone, writing communications, or dealing with the public. She will be missed. Thank you. Now, a couple other things. Over the last 2 or 3 meetings, it was brought up about, we can call it a multi-purpose building, we could call it a recreation center, we could call it a gym. I'm on the committee where we are looking into the future. And one of the things that is necessary in East Fishkill is one of these facilities. Just a little history. Stick around, Peter. In the late 70s, 78, 79, 80, when AJ wasn't even born, Nick was getting ready for elementary school. I believe the other 3 members of the board were probably in high school. And I don't believe any of the 5 of you even lived in East Fishkill in 1978. I went to meetings with the members, recreation directors, and members of Fishkill, Wappingers, and East Fishkill, and we discussed, because we were all starting out then with our towns were increasing, what the main needs were in the towns. And it was unanimous that we needed an indoor facility and a swimming pool. The reason we needed an indoor facility was all 3 of us were dependent upon the schools. We were paying considerable overtime, we were getting kicked out, and we all started basketball leagues and other functions. We had aerobics going on there, we had our Halloween thing was going on there. We had a lot of things going on in the school, and we decided that we have to work out something. And back in the early 80s, there was a proposal with the town of Wappingers, the town of East Fishkill, and the town of Fishkill, and the Wappinger School District to get a gymnasium-type building. And what it turned out to be was the Y was going to put a building in the southern part of Dutchess that we'd all share. This fell through. So we were, if you remember that.
No, why did it fall through?
Money. And they were having problems with the Y in Poughkeepsie. And
That's our problem too, Bill, money.
But let me just say, what happened after that is we were using the schools up until a few years ago, Fishkill did get a rec center. And it's not a gym. It's a building that can be used for everything, for our seniors, for our teenagers, for basketball games, for volleyball games, for... I brought this up earlier, and I was criticized for it, I heard, by a board member when I said, this summer we had to cancel camp 3 or 4 times because of the heat or because of the rain. We had a movie night we had to cancel. We had other activities we had to cancel because we did not have an alternate building. The community center was built about 15 to 20 years ago when we proposed the kind of building we want now, and instead they built a building that has been outgrown already, even with the addition on it. And that building is used by our seniors, but even now, they've almost outgrown it. So this is the reason why down the road, when our committee meets and we look to the future, we are going to propose and let the taxpayers decide what we really need. Now, we have increased our recreation. In 1978, we had 4 fields here, we had no lights, we had no roller rink, we had no skate park, we had no Davis House, we had no community center, we had no McGrath Field. I think Peter was on the board and Ethel Walker, and they were smart enough, the board back then was to buy the Storm property. And maybe you weren't there. You were still picking potatoes, so in Maine. So, but in any case, that facility is used, but we never got the building on it. And I just want to bring up one other thing, because I know it's running late. If I said something that was not, you did not think was acceptable, I did say when we were interviewing the camp to the directors, I think it would be beneficial if we had a building, a big building, so we wouldn't have to cancel, and mainly we could have a full-day camp, which is something we've been talking about for years. I wish, Councilman Marinello, you would use my name instead of implying. The one reason, I don't want anyone else to get blamed for what I said, and the other reason is I don't want anyone else to get credit for what I said. So thank you.
Bill, we've said this many times before. First of all, Fishkill's still paying for their facilities, okay? Number one. Number two, the town board will decide when to build a building when we have enough dollars in the rec fund to do so. The town board will decide together, number one, that. Number two, unless we're comfortable that we have enough dollars to do that and carry the costs, we're a very prudent town board to spend dollars.
But we have a master plan committee, why aren't we meeting?
No, because you have to have some sort of plan for the future. Absolutely, you do. Right. And I commend you for doing that. But you don't want to put the cart in front of the horse.
We still have a long way to go.
When we have the funds, we could talk about that.
But why can't we put it out for a bond for the public, for the taxpayer to say yes?
We're not looking at that right now.
If I had to ask the public to borrow any money, it would be to fix my roads. Nothing against recreation. I love it, and I fully fund it in my budget. You know that.
Yes.
But if we have to do anything, we have priorities. And I'm not saying your priority isn't different and other people's aren't different, but
well, Tom could bring up too what we've done in this master plan committee, because it's not just this building. There are a lot of things in recreation that need to be.
Well, we are getting dollars in the rec funds. We do have projects coming on board, so that's why your work with the committee for the future of recreation is important.
And I just want to say too, I'd like to thank Kenny and his group, because Red Wing Park this summer made major improvements because he and his men came there and they fixed the parking lot and they took care of the sand and the beach and they helped build a pavilion, things that would have cost a lot more money and they didn't. So we really appreciate what they've done for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, just a general comment. I know that Bill brought up the Senior Citizen Center, built in addition a few years ago, and now we realize that probably we're running out of space. And this is the results of, I'm going to say, sometimes poor planning.
Because poor planning.
Poor planning.
More monies.
No, because if we see we have a trend where the baby boomers are retiring just about now. This is the biggest population that was around, and now they're going to need a place to get together. So I gave a point to Bill, and we spoke about creating seniors housing. It is needed in the town of East Fishkill. As far as the other facility, I think that the town supervisor addressed it. We have a big recreation department. I think they will do a great job in the town. And I just want to say that whatever activities right now, we use the buildings of the schools. I just want to make sure that we know that the schools are the taxpayers' buildings. We pay 76% of our taxes go to the Wapanger School District. And if I cannot use that facility for the children of East Fishkill, there is a problem. And if there is a problem, maybe the whole town board of East Fishkill could address that with the Wapanger School District and the superintendent. We own those buildings. So I don't know if there is an issue with using those buildings, but I think that the fees that are presented with the project that we use those buildings cover the expenses above and behind what we charge the children for those activities. So,
Unfortunately, though, Councilman, and I agree with you, but we are still paying the schools even more. And Bill, I think you can. and Jan-
We are dependent on the schools, and they are letting us, we wouldn't have a basketball program without it. However, school functions will take precedent every time. We lost 8 games of basketball one day in Van Wyck because there was a Lego contest going on there. We are always going to be second fiddle, which is why Fishkill, I mean, they're paying for it. You want your own facility because you don't want to be dependent. We're lucky this year. We used to pay every year for a Halloween party. This year, Mill Creek and George, we're going to have it over there this Sunday. But it's not, everything isn't free. We have a reciprocal thing, but when there's custodians there, we're paying their custodial overtime. So. And by the way, the facility that is going to be proposed will bring in money if it's run correctly. I've been to Patterson's many times, and they are making money there. Not that they're making thousands of dollars, but they're not losing millions of dollars.
Yeah, but
So-
Bill, also, remember, we had said too, we are way in the early nascent
yeah.
stages. And there's a lot of analytics that have to be done. And like the supervisor said, if it can't sustain itself, and look, I'm a big proponent of it. You know that. I've told you all that. But if it can't sustain itself, it's a no deal. And we will look mainly towards the rec development fund for that. And
But
again,
as he said-
down the road, and we'll see where we are.
The seniors are really almost running out of room now, so, which is another reason why this facility will be beneficial somewhere down the road. I'll be long gone when it's here. So-
No,
No,
you'll be
You're
around.
going to be here forever.
Councilman, see, now you have to say about the seniors more space. We got to build a bigger building right now.
Just for building it is.
Hey, look, I stop by all the time. I think they're pretty comfortable the way they are. I mean, could have we built it maybe a
They
better
were
facility,
complaining about their
maybe?
poker game last week.
Yeah, but again, you know,
Any other comments, general town issues?
Yes, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the entire town board, the town professionals, town highway superintendent, chief, for the efforts that have been going on in Hillside Lake as far as moving forward with what was once the Park District. Thanks for the efforts. I see what's going on. Thank you for the courtesy of the email and the update. I appreciate it. Two other issues outside of that. One being the earlier discussion regarding I'll say cooperation between the town and Dutchess County for the snow removal. Is there a closed door date of when your negotiations will?
No, there
Okay.
isn't.
Okay.
They proposed $5,400, Scott, was it?
Yes.
$5,400 per mile. We did calculations. It's not enough.
Don't figure out, especially if it doesn't snow.
Yeah, so we are, though, we did pass a resolution to do shared services with the state, so we could utilize their loading of salt and sand at their different locations on top of the hill and down Lime Kiln, so that'll save us some money.
Okay, all right.
But still, even with that savings, it was a little too tight, and, you know, I'm still new to take those chances.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I'm not a gambler, so I get it. Next, I'd like to ask, I believe it's resolution number 3 for the rezoning application.
Yeah.
From R1 to B1 on Route 82. I was looking at the several pages of that application, and one of the questions is it's number 20. I don't have all of the whatever 20 pages or whatever it was, but it says describe the purpose of your rezoning request and general nature of development plans. And I presume it is the applicant that replies, we are planning on getting the property rezoned to commercial and developing a new structure and layout for needs beneficiary to the community. I would say that that is quite ambiguous because the benefit is in the eyes of the beholder. If I were in a coal township and relied on a weekly check for the production of coal, that would be great. I happen to I'm about 3,000 feet from this particular site as the crow flies. Is there any detail as far as what the anticipated use of that property is?
No, they just put an application in to change the zoning of their property. They haven't
I
come
think that's
forward
rather
with any
ambiguous.
plans. If they would come forward with any plans, they still are subject to all secret review and application to the planning board and everything else that they have to do to do the project.
I would say that is significantly less than adequate of a description of what the proposed land use is.
Well, that's their application. I can't speak to what they write.
And then, after that, there are many pages, and I don't know how it's divided off, but in those many pages, there are many blanks, questions that are not even checked off or replied to, and yes or no questions.
I think I can address that.
Sure.
Those are the secret forms, and when you're proposing a rezoning, because it's not a specific project, it's not an actual development project where there's disturbance, they allow you to skip all those questions and go to the end. So what they're proposing right now is a commercial, some sort of commercial use, so it would be anything, technically, if it got zoned B1, they could put anything there that would be permitted in a B1 if the town board agreed to rezone it. I don't know that they have a specific idea of what they want to put there. I think they want to rezone it and see who would be interested in developing it. So that's.
Could you elaborate what B1 zoning would allow?
Yeah, so B1 is the commercial business district, so pretty much anything that would be allowed in Hopewell Hamlet, that's a B1 district. So it's personal service shops, restaurants, trying to think of pretty much any kind of store that you see.
Yeah, small retail,
Small
things
retail,
like that.
yeah.
Okay.
It's the
so
business zone.
It wouldn't be like.
No gas stations or
Yeah, no
car
gas
repairs.
stations,
Okay.
no nuclear
No
plants.
gas-
No
okay.
nuclear plant?
Because it is in proximity of what is, because one of the items on here refers to brownfields, and it is not too far away from an existing brownfield designated land. And so that was a concern of mine also. So we're not talking about a potential transfer zone, rather a transfer station such as.
That wouldn't be permitted. This is the lightest business zone we have.
Okay.
It's be like a retail or things like that.
Storefront type only.
And this is just their request to the town board to consider it.
Right, so
It
we
now
s-
gets referred, there has to be comments, there would have to be a public hearing
Public
by the
hearing
town
still.
board. to even decide if they were going to consider a
But
request.
once it is rezoned, it's a done deal. It is
Yeah,
zoned
but
that way.
this is just to push the application to the planning board for their comments. Then we would have to set a public hearing, and then have a public hearing and get public comments, and then the town board would then make the determination if we're going to change the zoning or not.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, you know the area, there's homes all around it.
Right.
So why there would be a
There's-
strip mall or whatever you would establish there?
Well,
beyond
their
that.
site is very limited, so what they could do probably, used to be a single store, I believe, on
Was that,
downstairs.
was that once
It
Four
was a
Maples?
It's the old fish market.
Four Maples?
Yeah.
okay. I
So
thought
maybe they want that again. I guess they had a special permit. Is
No,
that
it
what
was
they had?
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Pre-existing non-conforming.
And it wasn't used for a year, so it elapsed, and it's now residential.
So they can't-
They're asking for the board to consider B1. It's just like any other vacant property in the town that's Zone B1. You have all those choices, you still have to come into the planning board and show that your project works, traffic, water, septic,
Okay.
you know, all the
Yeah.
other
So
issues.
because the business closed for over a year, they lost their special.
Status or
So-
special use, okay.
I'm assuming that they want to open up another store there or something,
All right.
or what have you.
In light of what transpired with that carport, or what was the other?
Copart.
Copart, yes.
Copart, yeah, I just thought, changing from residential to business, and I am a proponent of business in the town. It helps reduce private property owners' obligations. So
Absolutely.
I am a proponent of business. It's just the where is really what my concern was.
Well, there's several other commercial properties over there, but it does abut residential, like you said. But these are all things we'll have to take in consideration.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll have a chance to speak again at the public hearing about it.
Oh, Bobby's back.
I'm going to make it quick, because I know everybody's tired. Comment, question.
You've been writing for
Haven't
a
even
long
gotten to the
time. I don't know how
resolutions yet.
quick you're going to make.
What? What?
We haven't gotten to the resolutions yet, go ahead.
Oh, all right. You're making me forget. Oh, I just want to make a quick comment on Channel 22 again, what I had mentioned at the last meeting. I called Altice, which I believe is Optimum, because I think everybody has the same issue with the volume. So I got to turn it on 100 to hear it on my TV. And then I forget, and when I turn it back to another channel,
It goes high.
my dog jumps. So I call them, and I start getting a runaround from them, and if anybody does call, that's what's going to happen to them. They haven't called me back as promised.
Still?
Huh?
Still haven't called back?
Yeah, well, you know, that's, no, they're not going to call back, but I'm going to call them
Don't
back.
pay your bill for about 3
I'm gonna
months, they'll call
them
you
back.
weekly.
But anyway, if anybody calls, be prepared for the runaround, and you're going to have to ask to speak to corporate, because these people are going to try and tell you that they'll send out a serviceman to your house to correct the condition, when we know that that's not where
That's right.
the origin of the problem. Okay, on that, as far as Hillside Lake and the draining and the weather and all of that, I just got a quick idea while Kenny and Scott is here. I don't know how they would proceed with that, but I'm wondering if there's a way that they could take some of that muck, sediment, whatever, put it to one side.
We asked about this.
All right, let me finish, because, no, only because I don't know. I want to know if it was asked about, that's fine, but I don't. So they put it to one side, let's say, and then bank it up on the sides and sort of drain it so that you'll have one side drying out without water laying on it. It would be graded, the muck would be graded to the center. Is that what they asked?
Army Corps of Engineers doesn't want us to change the, what was this?
surface.
Huh? The
Water
the
surface.
water surface.
The what?
The water
Water
surface area. So, the contour, we
Yeah, but,
we
but
asked
I mean,
100 different
but it's
things.
gonna get, they want to drain it, so,
Bob, that makes sense, but they don't like what makes sense.
So How can you combat this kind of ignorance?
We're trying to come up with different solutions. We've been talking to a couple different experts to see, because I wanted to make the lake a little deeper and
Yeah.
fill in that swimming area and try, but no, that's displacing U.S. waters, and it goes on and on.
Okay. And one last thing. Bill mentioned, first of all, I want to commend Bill on a lot of hard work that the guy does. He gets a lot of grief sometimes.
Bill
but
Green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the guy does, his thoughts, and he speaks up, so I got to commend him for that. I like underdogs sometimes. But he's not going to like this, but he was talking about a pool, and on 2 occasions, I'll mention it again. They need a pool, they could put a pool at Hillside Lake.
It's going to keep it short.
Hi.
You were going to keep it short, you said.
Anybody else wish to speak on general town issues? Okay, so with that, here's my agenda here. Okay, with that, we have receipt and file. Clerk, I have a letter to the chairperson, Lori G., and the members of the town board, planning board. Dear Chairperson G. and members of the planning board, the firm represents Copart Inc., the applicant, contract vendee of the above property in connection with its application for approval to construct a facility. The purpose of this letter is to inform the planning board that we are withdrawing our application by which we sought site plan approval and a special permit for the planning board. Thank you for your consideration. I'd like to receipt and file that. And with that, we have resolutions, finally. Number 1, Deputy Supervisor, would you like to read the first one? Shared service agreement?
Whereas the town is over 52 square miles in size, and whereas having supplies of salt and sand in remote areas of the town creates a more efficient snow clearing operation, and whereas New York's DOT has 2 sand salt facilities that can be utilized during storms, one on Ludington Road and the other on I Park Boulevard. Now therefore be resolved that the highway superintendent be and hereby is authorized to sign a shared service agreement with the New York State DOT.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize shared service agreement with New York State DOT?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? This is what I was discussing, as I mentioned earlier, to Mr. Damaso, when he asked a question about plowing county roads. This is going to save us some dollars. We can load up at 2 different locations now. The highway superintendent and the engineer are happy to, that we're doing this. It'll save us definitely fuel, time.
Save us
and
from
many
going
other
up the
things.
mountain with fully loaded trucks. They can stay up there and get loaded. They only have to come down for fuel. Makes great sense.
That's great. So I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 2, Councilman Franco.
Whereas the state of New York acquired the house and lot located at 18 Warren Drive in the town as a result of storm damage during the hurricane. Whereas the house has been or will be demolished, septic abandoned, and any underground tanks removed. And whereas the vacant lot will then be transferred to the town for conservation purposes at no cost to the town. I'm going to read that one again. Whereas the vacant lot will then be transferred to the town for conservation purposes at no cost to the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the town accepts the vacant lot at 18 Warren Drive for conservation purposes, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to take all steps necessary to accept title to the lot for conservation purposes.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to accept conveyance of the parcel at 18 Warren Drive?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Tom, could you give us an idea what happened at this location and
Yeah,
this
well,
property?
this is, if you remember, we went through a process about 8, 9 years ago and adopted a hazard mitigation plan with the state. Took many months and years to do it, was approved. And because the town complied with that, when there is a property that's damaged in a storm that has flood insurance or any insurance available to it that way, the state and the federal government now are rethinking just giving money to rebuild these buildings when they're situated in such places where it shouldn't be. That's going to continually have the problem. So the program that they've come up with as part of the hazard mitigation is to eliminate this potential for repetitive damage by compensating the property owner through the insurance. They then demolish the structure, render the property clean, and then what they ask the town to do is to hold title to it and merely keep it as open space, because it's too wet, really. The house should never have been built there because of proximity to a stream or whatever it is. So this way, it's under the control of the town. No one else will be victimized by buying it and building and going through the vicious cycle again. So in the end, it's going to be a cost savings to all the taxpayers, because all of us, pay for flood insurance and other costs for these storms. So that's the concept of this program.
How big?
Where is that, Warren Drive? Where is that?
Line Kill? So going toward the mountain, Lime Kill.
Oh, isn't that across from John Jay?
No, it's in the back.
It's down Lake Drive.
Lake Drive, across from
Yeah,
John Jay.
That's how you access it, down Lake
Yeah.
Drive.
The other one you're thinking is Warren Farm.
Right, Warren Farm Road.
Warren Drive is across from John Jay.
The backside
It's
of...
in Lake City.
Lake City.
Lake City.
Lake City.
Remember that?
Scott, a few years ago, there was another property that you and I went to look at that has been flooding. There was a property on Crown Hill Road, remember?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like it's a similar situation
No,
to
because
this
they're
one.
not in the floodplain at Crown Hill. So
It's
they're-
not?
They're not eligible.
Not even that house over there,
They're not in the floodplain.
even though flooded all the time?
How big is the lot, roughly?
This one's about an acre, right there, a regular building.
Okay, well, there's terrible flooding over there. I remember there was a lady in a canoe or something in her front yard years ago.
Right. And we've been contacted now about another home,
Yeah.
but that hasn't, been vetted yet,
Similar situation.
similar to this. yeah.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 3, a rezone application. Councilman Marinaro, would you read that?
So this is a rezoning application to the Town Planning Board and the County of Dutchess Planning Board. Whereas Walid Ahmed is requesting that parcel number 6559-03-136067 be rezoned from R1 to B1. Whereas upon filing of the petition with the town clerk and payment of the requisite fee, the matter is now before the town board. And the town board has determined that it is appropriate to refer this matter to the planning board to review, to be lead agency under SECRA, and to refer the same to the Dutchess County Planning Board for comment. And it is the desire of the town board to make said referral. Now therefore be it resolved that the rezoning application from Walid Ahmed filed with the town clerk be and hereby is referred to the planning board for its review and comment, as well as the planning board to conduct a secret review of said petition as lead agency. And be it further resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to refer that said petition to the Dutchess County Planning Department for their review and comments as required by law.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to refer the rezone to the planning boards of East Fishkill and Dutchess County?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Like we said before, this is going to go to the planning boards. We'll get their comments back, and then we'll set a public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 4, set a public hearing for water improvement area. Councilman Beepan, would you read that?
Supervisor, I just, for brevity purposes, I don't think there's a need to.
Yes.
This is a very formalized document that bond council requires will be fully published in the paper. So I think a short motion to schedule it for public hearing would be more than sufficient.
On the
Thank
top
you.
right-hand side, Councilman,
All
you
right.
see, you could, at the regular meeting of the town board? Yes. Yeah.
At the regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of East Fishkill, Dutchess County, New York, held at the Town Hall in East Fishkill, New York, in said town on the 25th day of October 2018 at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing for the Route 82 water improvement area?
So moved.
For November 15, 2018.
So
I'm
moved.
sorry about that, Councilman. So moved. A second?
Second.
Discussion? This is just to set the public hearing date. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
would-
carried. Thank you.
I would have happily read the entire thing.
Yeah, I know. The attorney was astute enough to
Carol would have been
stop you.
happy.
Thank you.
Number 5, authorized streetlight change. Councilman, Deputy Supervisor, would you read it?
Whereas the town has requested that Central Hudson move a current light pole from near Creamery Road to the intersection of Clove Branch Road and Creamery Road to better serve the area. Whereas Central Hudson will remove the light located at Creamery Road and put a new light pole near Clove Branch and Creamery to illuminate the intersection. Now therefore be resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to approve a street light order for Central Hudson.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor. Do I have a motion to, for me to authorize a approved street light order?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Which lighting district's that in, Mark?
Just townwide, isn't it?
Downwide.
Townwide.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. And we have one addition to the agenda, which is promote a laborer to equipment operator. Brian Tucker was previously hired by the town as a laborer in the highway department. Highway superintendent has indicated his desire to have the said employee promoted to a laborer to a motor equipment operator, hourly rate of $20.98. And town board does concur with this recommendation, and now therefore be resolved that Brian Tucker be and hereby is promoted to the position of motor equipment operator effective October 23rd, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. That'll do it. Thank you very much for resolutions. Okay, town board member comments. Any town board members wish to make any comments?
I got a bunch, unfortunately.
Oh,
Sorry,
go
Carol.
ahead. Carol, it's Councilman Franco, so all Carol.
Yep. I want to start with East Fishkill 18th Annual Halloween Costume Party and Parade. It's Sunday, October 28th, from 3 to 5 at Mill Creek Caterers. Food and beverage, music, Halloween gift bags for all, costume contests for ages 3 and under, 4 to 7, 8 and older, and special prize for adults in costume. So, Pete, I'll meet you there.
I was there last year.
I'm sure you were.
What about the seniors one? You're not going to talk about that one?
I don't have that one.
Oh, it's Friday night.
That's Friday night? You can mention it.
I don't know anymore.
We are putting the finishing touches on a donated scoreboard on the McGrath Field. I want to thank the McGrath family for the scoreboard donation. I checked it out today with our maintenance director, Butch Kinney, and it's looking really good. He's committed to getting it operational for Saturday night's football game, and I also want to thank Southern Dutchess Football and Cheer for their generous contribution towards that scoreboard. The leagues are winding down their fall seasons, and I want to thank all the leagues, and especially their volunteers who made it a success. The supervisor and I had a Veterans Committee meeting the other night. We had a good discussion on where we want to see the committee go. The members are enthusiastic and have some really good ideas. We're looking to have a couple of veteran speakers sometime in January talking about their time in the military and what they took part in. We'll have more information in the coming weeks, and we'll get it out to everyone. The supervisor brought up the possibility of a Veterans Hall somewhere in East Fishkill. Currently, our American Legion meet at the Old Town Hall, and I know the supervisor and I share the same idea about perhaps finding somewhere else where they consistently meet. We had a gentleman talk to our Veterans Committee, the Historical Society's Rick Salder. He was a liaison to the historical group of high schoolers who are interested in interviewing some of the veterans who are on the Hometown Hero banners. The committee was very receptive to this idea, and we're thinking of letting the kids do these interviews on Channel 22 so everyone can hear our Hometown Hero stories. The supervisor also came up with a great idea for a possible Channel 22 show as we were discussing these interviews. We're looking at calling the show Veterans Corner, where we can have some of our local vets talk to other vets to discuss other veteran issues. We also discussed about the possibility of doing something on Veterans Day next year. This year it's far too quick and we won't be able to plan something effectively. And we also had a discussion of a possible war memorial and becoming a Purple Heart community. The Hometown Hero banners will be coming down around Veterans Day weekend for the winter. They'll be back up around Memorial Day of next year. I can't express enough how proud we are of this project. I get requests in my mailbox every week, and it's a great joy riding through town looking at all of them. I notice other towns are doing something similar as well. We think that is really great. I received an email today asking about my opinion on how to start a Hometown Heroes project from a woman in Poughkeepsie. She's going to bring it to them. And also got I was told by the Supervisor's Secretary, Gina Grippo, that a woman who used to live in East Fishkill, now living in Putnam County, wants to bring the project over there too, which we think is really great. When we first started the project about 2 years ago, we only had 7 banners. Currently, we're up to 126, and we keep getting more and more, which is great. Just a reminder that if you have a recent application for a banner, we probably won't be able to get it up outside on the pole, not until next year, because it's quickly approaching Veterans Weekend, so they'll be coming down. This past Sunday, I attended the East Fishkill Historical Society fundraiser at Tomas Restaurant. It was a great time as they were trying to raise some funds to fix a roof at the Brinkerhoff House. I want to thank them for all of their hard work. I want to thank Gina Grippo, the Supervisor's Secretary, for all her hard work on Hometown Heroes. Gina has been our go-to person. She's been answering every question, fielding every phone call, so I really, really want to thank her and appreciate all the hard work that she's done. And lastly, again, I urge people, and I always ask them, if you have any concerns in town, to please give us a call or send us an email. Some of us cannot be on social media all day to see what's going on, and everybody on this board, every one of us is very responsive. We will get back to you, and we will address any issue that you have. Just give us a call. We're very easy to talk to, I promise. We'll fix your issue as quickly as we can. That's all I got. Thank you.
Or Gina will fix it.
Gina will fix it for sure.
Fix it, and Frank will take credit.
Any other comments, board members?
I just want to quickly note and commend the supervisor and our comptroller for their diligent job with their budget this year. It was definitely a lean budget. I spoke to a number of our department heads, and each one of them said, you know, we'd like to see more money in the budget, but we have to work together to do what's right by our community. So I'd like to thank them as well for working with our supervisor on that. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see everyone on Sunday at the Halloween party.
Just one thing, but I'd like the police chief to address it, because I only know about it because my daughter saw it on social media. What's the Stop the Bleed thing that's going on in a couple weeks?
I think he'll make his comments.
Are you gonna make that in yours?
Yeah.
That's all I got. Other than that, nothing.
Councilman?
Yeah, briefly, as far as activities from our local police department, just one thing that happened during this past few weeks. On October 16th, 2018, around 10:26 in the evening, officers were dispatched at residence on State Route 82 for a report of vandals inside a residence. The residence which was temporarily not inhabitable. This is the house that I believe partially burned. And so we had an individual that actually was caught inside the property, and actually he was apprehended at the community center by Sergeant Paul Gaston and other officers, Justine Bermudez and Stephen Costello. The gentleman was a local East Fishkill resident. He was arrested and arraigned by our local town judge, Brian Rutner, and he was remanded to the Dutchess County Jail on a $10,000 cash bond and $10,000 cash and $20,000 bond. On another note, as the supervisor mentioned during his comments, I also, with the town supervisor, attended the economic development meeting. There were a lot of great points that were discussed, and one of the main points that came out of that meeting was a discussion about our planning board, and it was actually something presented by a member of the planning board which attends the meeting, and he strongly suggested that there should be a continuous training for all members of the planning board. It would be really beneficial during the process that when projects are presented in front of the board, that things get expedited, through the process. And I think that the gentleman that presented the issue strongly suggested that the training be on a continuous basis. Also, this is something that I addressed a few times in the past. I think that board, the planning board, needs to reflect all aspects of our community. As of right now, the majority of those members on the planning board are retired IBMers. That does not really reflect our community. In our community, there is a variety of needs, and again, I suggest to the board and to the town supervisor that in the future, we kind of try to appoint people that represent the whole community. And, they're doing a good job, but we're always trying to improve. This is just a suggestion, and the suggestion came from a board member, planning board member, which was well taken at the night of the discussion.
Thank you, Councilman. We are always trying to improve our boards, our planning board. Nothing's perfect, and we'll get there little by little. We're doing good. Any comments from our highway superintendent, chief of police?
Well, I think we addressed a lot of stuff this evening. Shared services, of course, and the catch basin, the large sump in the Hillside Lake. You guys over there have been out there looking at what we're doing, and we're still paving, keeping going. That's about it. I'll keep it short. I know it's been a late night.
Okay, thank you. Chief?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of council. I'll also be brief. Saturday, October 27th is National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Residents are encouraged to dispose of all unwanted, unneeded, or expired prescription medications at the East Fishkill Police Department. This can be done safely and anonymously, and our medication drop box is right in the lobby of police headquarters. And finally, during the month of November, our police officers will be participating in No Shave November, which is a month-long journey in which participants forego shaving in order to evoke conversation and raise cancer awareness. As we've done in the past, proceeds of the fundraiser will go to Sparrow's Nest, which is a local East Fishkill organization which provide meals to the families and caregivers and children who have been diagnosed with any type of cancer.
Thank you, Chief. I told the chief I will also participate in the No Shave November with the police department.
And the highway superintendent.
I already started.
And I'd just like to say happy Halloween to everybody, and thank you to all the employees of the town. You've been working very hard. I appreciate it, and especially to all my professionals here. I've been really putting a lot of work to you guys and gals, and I do appreciate all your hard work, so thank you very much. With that, our next town board meeting is November 15th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Carol, school meeting.